As a test manager, your biggest challenge isn't just managing one test process. It's managing a bunch of them, all at the same time. Today, we're going to use the ISTQB Advanced Syllabus as our guide to break down how the best managers completely adapt their strategy for each specific test level. Because in testing, let's be real, context is absolutely everything.
So let's just dive right in with a really important question. Do you manage unit testing the same way you manage system testing? I mean, the answer is obviously no, right? But the real question is, why not? And that simple question gets to the heart of what we're talking about today. A one-size-fits-all approach to test management, it's just a recipe for disaster. All right, to really get a handle on this, think of this as a guided tour. First, we're going to talk about why context is king. Then, we'll make two really critical stops: component testing and integration testing, just to see how this all works in the real world. From there, we'll lay down the rules of the road by defining quality gates and picking the right metrics for the job. And finally, we'll put your new knowledge to the test. Let's get going.
Okay, first thing on our roadmap, we need to understand the single most important rule of the road. An effective test manager's activities, the planning, the monitoring, defining what done even means, they can't be generic. They have to be perfectly tailored to the specific test level you're working in. If you get this wrong, you're going to be testing the wrong things at the wrong time, probably with the wrong people.
And listen, this isn't just some good idea I came up with. It's a core principle baked right into the ISTQB syllabus. The standard is crystal clear. Tailoring your activities isn't optional, it's required. Which means if your test strategy is just a static document you copy and paste, it's already broken. So let's see what this looks like in practice.
All right, our first official stop, component testing. I want you to think of this like putting a single Lego brick under a microscope. We are zooming all the way in to look at the smallest individual testable bits of our software before they're hooked up to anything else.
So what are we really doing here? Well, this is what a lot of you probably just call unit testing or module testing. The entire goal is to make sure that one single component, like a specific function or a single class, works absolutely perfectly on its own, in complete isolation, before it ever has to talk to the rest of the system. Now here's where the manager's role might actually surprise you. At this level, you are not some distant observer sitting in meetings. No way. The syllabus makes it clear. You are deep in the trenches. You're the one defining the completion criteria for a single function. You're pushing your testers to get involved in code reviews, and you're in constant contact with developers to squash bugs. It's an incredibly hands-on, micro-focused role.
Okay, time to pull the camera back a bit for our next stop, integration testing. This is that moment of truth when all those individual components we just verified are finally connected and are expected to play nicely together for the very first time.
And just like that, our whole focus shifts. We don't really care anymore if a component works by itself. We already checked that. The only question that matters now is, do they work together? This stage, which you'll often hear called component integration testing, is all about the handshakes and the conversations happening between all those different components.
And this right here, this is exactly where a test manager really earns their paycheck. Your job is to orchestrate the entire integration strategy alongside the dev team. You're asking the big questions. Which pieces do we connect first? In what order? Where are the interfaces that are most likely to break? You've basically transformed from a micromanager of units into a strategic coordinator of a whole system.
So let's just put this side by side to make it super clear. On the left, at the component level, you're a specialist. You're focused on one little unit, probably with one developer. But on the right, at the integration level, you're a generalist. You're focused on the big picture, coordinating across the entire team. It's the same project, sure, but it demands two completely different management mindsets.
So how do you actually control the traffic flowing between these different test levels? How do you know when you're ready to start, or maybe even more importantly, when you're allowed to stop? Well, that is the job of quality gates, and we build those using entry and exit criteria. Think of these as the official checkpoints on our testing roadmap.
Entry criteria are your big green light. This is your non-negotiable checklist that has to be 100% satisfied before a single test even gets run. Is the test environment even up? Has the code been successfully built and deployed? Look, this isn't just bureaucracy. It's a critical step that prevents your team from wasting days testing something that was broken from the start.
And on the flip side of that, you have exit criteria. These give you a clear, objective, and totally defensible definition of done. They answer that question we all get asked. How do we know when to stop? It's not a gut feeling. It's a data-driven contract you make with your stakeholders. When these conditions are met, you move on. That's it. Period.
Of course, you can't make data-driven decisions without, well, data. And that brings us to metrics. The rule here is super simple. If your goal changes, your measurement has to change too. You can't just use the same old yardstick for every single level of testing.
Just check out this table. For component testing, a metric like defect density tells you a lot about the initial stability of that piece of code. But for integration testing, you care way more about the interface defect rate. Are the components actually talking to each other correctly? And then, later, at system testing, your focus shifts again, this time to something like requirements coverage. Are we even building what the business asked for? The metric has to match the mission. It's that simple.
Okay, we have covered a lot of ground. We've gone over the core concepts, so now let's see how they actually apply with a couple of quick exam-style questions based on everything we've just talked about. Let's see if you were paying attention.
All right, first one up. A test manager is planning the sequence for combining different modules. What level is that? Is it A, component, B, component integration, or C, system testing? Really think about where the focus is. Is it on one single piece, or is it on how all the pieces connect?
And the answer is B, component integration testing. The reason why is spelled out right there in the syllabus, which literally lists determining those integration sequences as a key management activity for this specific level.
Let's try one more. For which test level is it a recommended management activity to get testers involved in things like code reviews? Is it A, component testing, B, acceptance testing, or C, integration testing?
Yep, the correct answer is A, component testing. And again, this comes directly from the source. The syllabus is super explicit about this, encouraging managers to use their testers' awesome analytical skills in non-traditional ways, like code reviews at this really granular level.
So, after this whole tour, after everything we've talked about, what is the one single idea you need to walk away with? It's this. Your real value as a test manager isn't just knowing how to run one single test process. It's knowing how to adapt that process to fit any situation you get thrown into.
So here's the bottom line. A great test manager strategy can't be set in stone. It has to be as dynamic, as flexible, and as context-aware as the development process it's supposed to be supporting. You have to be able to shift your focus, your activities, and even your metrics to match the level you're on.
Which leaves us with one final challenge for you. Don't just think about this stuff in theory. On the project you're on right now, I want you to ask yourself, is the way I'm measuring success for component testing the same as how I'm measuring it for integration testing? And if the answer is yes, what's one specific change you can make tomorrow to start fixing that? Thanks for tuning in,